Bad Brothers, baby.
Face breakdown.
Welcome everyone to the Babyface Breakdown, the weekly show that I, Big Bubba Brogdon, and
Bush Dingo
do. We are the Bad Brothers. This is the Babyface Breakdown. All right. Hopefully everyone's had a good week. It's been a decent week in wrestling.
Yeah, I mean it's been a lot going on, so that's a decent week. Whenever there's too much to get to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still not catching up on the NWA as much. I've tried looking at it.
Yeah, I've fell off the NWA about 6 months ago. I just got too busy and was moving and kind of in between places and fell behind and tried to kind of pick it back up here recently and was gonna really dive back in with this new pay-per-view, Hard Times 3, but just didn't find the time this week. It admittedly was not high on the list. It was probably bottom of the list as far as priorities. Interesting, development there with, I guess, spoilers for the pay-per-view. Old Brodus Clay, Tyrus is what he's going by now in NWA. He's the NWA champion. Took
Really?
the belt off. Yeah, took the belt off of Trevor Murdoch. I like
Big boy smooth, huh?
Yeah, I like Trevor Murdoch. A lot of people were pretty down on him whenever he became the NWA champion. He does, he's kind of a bigger guy, and in terms of being a little on the stocky, kind of overweight, body type. But he's actually really good. I believe he was trained by Harley Race. So yeah, Trevor Murdoch's he's good. He doesn't exactly have a good promo or a good look, but he can. I mean, every time I've watched him wrestle, it's been entertaining. He can go. But yeah, it looks like they're going with Tyrus, and I will admit that's an interesting development. That's not something that I saw coming, or I think anyone really saw coming. But a lot of people are down on that development there. But they're the same people that will cheer on Orange Cassidy and think that putting a belt on him was a good decision. So I kind of take those people with a grain of salt. But yeah, that's who they're going with now is Tyrus. Which Tyrus is a fine talent. He's on a Fox News TV show. So he's fairly, with the WWE background and then being on, Fox News, I think, there's possibly an argument to be made for, going with him as your champ. You're gonna put a little bit more eyes, maybe on the product, and at the same time, Nick Aldis. Have you heard what's been going on with him?
Is he? No, not really. I've heard that there's someone leaving the NWA.
That would be Nick Aldis.
Aldis. That is him.
He's not renewing his contract. He did an interview recently, and I'm gonna quote just a portion of what he said here. He said, "I turned down bigger opportunities to take the lead on what has become the most toxic brand in wrestling." That's interesting.
I think we know who he's talking about.
Well, I've seen, I guess, some other kind of points that he made about some of the other booking that has gone on in NWA, and Aldis is great, and he was a long reigning NWA champion, and I thought he was really good for the brand. But I think in that same interview, he said that at the time that they took the belt off of him and he was no longer the champion is when he started to see it really go downhill.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's maybe some bad blood there, or if there's something else kind of going on in terms of his feelings about the company and the direction that it's headed. But yeah, looks like he might be moving on to greener pastures. Maybe taking up some of those bigger opportunities that he mentioned there.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, that's what's going on with NWA. I don't really know much else.
Well, if that's all that's going on with NWA, I do have some very few WWE news. One major thing is on this past week's WWE Raw, the return of Mia Yim aligning herself with the OC.
Yeah,
as the fourth member.
I saw that. It kind of evens the odds against Judgment Day. And you've got the woman now with OC who can go up against the woman, in Judgment Day. So I mean, I'm not very familiar with Mia Yim though, honestly. I know she's married to Keith Lee. I think that's about all I know about her.
You don't know what she's. You don't know about the things that she said after she was released by WWE.
Oh no, I'm not familiar with her. Like I said, aside from I recognize the name, and I know she was married to Keith Lee. That's all I know about her.
She talked about how she absolutely hated the Reckoning character, and how she thought her run in WWE, that short run that she did, was horrendous, and she should have stayed in NXT and all that. So I didn't think she'd ever come back.
Well, I think, with her making the remark about she should have stayed in NXT, Hunter was in control. Triple H was in control of NXT when she was there. So maybe, now that Vince is gone and Triple H is the supposed top dog there, maybe that changed her views on potentially going back. That it seems like Triple H has been bringing back a lot of people who were released shortly before Vince left. That worked with Triple H and NXT. Killer Cross, Scarlett Bordeaux. Yeah, I mean Gallows and Anderson. I don't think were necessarily they Triple H guys, but looks like he was behind bringing those guys back into the fold. So
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I can see who you're dealing with, who your boss is, management, the people in charge has a lot to do with how much you enjoy your job. So I don't know. I could see her maybe being willing to go back now that Triple H is in charge.
Very interesting take on it. I don't think necessarily that they have to have a woman fight Rhea Ripley.
Well, WWE has always kind of shied away from the intergender, male versus female wrestling for the most part.
With Nia Jax.
Yeah, I mean they toyed around with it a little bit with China, having some matches, but China's bigger than a lot of male wrestlers, in better shape. So, but yeah, I think
Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, of course, but yeah, I mean WWE seems to be a little timid, to fully commit to a male versus female match or storyline. And I think that just has to do with being a bigger company, public perception. It's it is what it is. But yeah, I think that's probably a good bit of the reason that they stuck Mia Yim, with the OC, just to kind of even those odds there.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the point there. We also had let's see, NXT. What happened on NXT? I barely watched any NXT.
So NXT, we had Axiom and McDonough. This was my first time watching NXT, in its entirety.
You took the lead on this NXT. You must be watching it now.
I mean, I'm trying. I figured why not? I'll tune in, give it a shot, and I actually sat down and watched the whole thing. The Axiom clips that I've been seeing recently have really been catching my attention. Some of the other names that I've heard people talk about, J.D. McDonough being one of them. So they had a match, and it was a really, really good match. I enjoyed it. Definitely worth my time. The rest of the show wasn't too bad either. There was I guess, female tag team match. And I'm not familiar with some of these names, but there's a girl named Stark or Starks.
Zoe Stark and Christina Lyons.
Nikita Lyons.
Nikita Lyons. I remember that clip. I've seen that where
So they were a tag team, and they had a tag match against Chance
and Carter.
Yeah. So I don't know a lot about any of those women, but I actually enjoyed the match. It was a pretty good match. It wasn't perfect. There was a little bit of sloppiness, a little bit of things that it could have been a little bit more fluid. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good match. Chance and Stark, or Starks, they both, those were the two standouts in that match. They both really impressed me. So
yeah, I'm glad they give more attention to these stars now. They kind of debuted around the time that Ripley and Asuka and Bianca Belair and all these other great women were in there, and they were just like thrown down. Like, these top women are all we're going to focus on. Y'all are going to be more of the jobbers. But now that they're bringing them in and using them,
yeah,
and it feels really good to see them, because Katie and Casey Kazarian, God, I can't say her last name. She's married to Ricochet and Chance, are a great tag team. I've seen them multiple times in action in matches, and they do great. They have great tag chemistry with each other, it feels like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's developmental. So some of those folks, need a little bit of time to develop, and I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you were saying, that when they came in, you had Asuka and some of these other women kind of in the forefront, who are a little bit more established, knew a little bit more about what they were doing. It gives these others a time to, like I said, develop, and it's paying off, for them, because, like I said, I was impressed. I'll be keeping my eyes on those few.
Well, I guess that would be all the big news for NXT then.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything else. I mean, the rest of the show was fine. There wasn't anything else that really, jumped out at me.
Not even the Alba Fire Mandy Rose rematch for next week.
Meh. I mean, I don't know who the Alba Fire is. That her name?
Yeah, well, that's what her name was changed to. Her original name was Kaylee Ray back in NXT UK.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about her.
She's a former NXT UK Women's Champion. She beat Rhea Ripley, the inaugural champion for the title, and had one of the longest reigns until losing it to the third champion and final champion. I forget where her name is, but yeah, those titles didn't have many wrestlers, more of long title reigns, but not many wrestlers to hold them.
Yeah. So who's the guy that's about to go up against Braun Breaker?
Von Wagner.
Wagner. Yeah, I watched their promo. At the end.
Yeah. So Wagner debuted in the debut episode of NXT 2.0. His first match was actually for the NXT Championship in the Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah, don't know really much about him at all, but I watched the segment between him and Breaker.
He's okay. He's not very talented. He's not very good on the mic. Just a big guy that can do big things.
Yeah. Well, he mentioned in that little exchange that they had in the ring there that he was second generation as well, and so I had to kind of dig into that and see who this guy was, who his father was. And his father was Wayne Bloom of the Beverly Brothers. I don't know if you're familiar or kind of.
No, I am not.
Yeah. Back in the day, 90s WWF, they were a tag team. Not a very popular, big, successful tag team. But I remember them, from being a kid and watching. So, yeah, I mean that's cool. That's my takeaway from NXT this week. Like I said, Chance, Starks, standouts, Axiom and McDonough put on a really great match. So it was a good episode, worth my time.
SmackDown was different this week. We had the first round tournament. Well, first round tournament for the SmackDown World Cup, which will determine the challenger for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship.
Now, I did not watch any. I didn't watch Raw or SmackDown this week. I saw clips. I saw highlights and things like that, but I didn't actually watch either program.
So you didn't see the little confrontation between LA Knight and Bray Wyatt?
I did not. I heard about it. I did not see it. So yeah, you'll have to kind of take the lead as far as Raw and SmackDown goes. I did. So what little bit I did see, beginning of the week, my guy Austin Theory.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that. I can't let you write that down.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised that you weren't more on top of that, because I'm sure that made you.
I wanted to save that till the end,
Oh, okay.
I wanted to save that till the end to rub it in your face, but since you brought it up now, I'll gladly do it.
Yeah, not a good night for Austin Theory.
They buried that man.
Well, I will say, I did see, the internet dirt sheet reporting from some unnamed, source that works with WWE backstage, saying that it's not a burial, saying that they have big plans for Austin Theory still, and that it was actually a good thing for him to get that Money in the Bank briefcase away from him. So, yeah, I mean, it still remains to be seen, what's going to happen. But yeah, initially not a good look to cash in on a U.S. champion who's already down and out, and still lose. And
then lose.
Yeah, not a good look, man. But hopefully we'll bounce back from that. And I mean, this might be something that kind of speeds up the evolution of the character that you're needing so desperately in order to hop on board with Austin Theory.
I get they wanted the contract off of him, but they could have done a better situation. Seth Rollins issued an open challenge.
Yeah.
And yet he cashed in on the open challenge.
Well, I mean, it was, after he'd already wrestled a match.
Challenge. No one accepted it except for him. He was coming in to accept it. And he cashed in on the open challenge.
Was it not Bobby Lashley that
Bobby
accepted?
Lashley didn't accept it. He just came down to beat him.
Okay.
No one accepted the open challenge.
Well, yeah, not a good call. I would have liked to have seen. I honestly thought for a moment when I first saw the video pop up and clicked on it, I thought it was going to be his moment, man. I thought he was going to win the U.S. Championship right then and there.
Nope.
So I was a bit surprised that it went the other way.
I'm so glad we don't have him with the Money in the Bank briefcase anymore.
Oh, I would have put the title on him. Seth Rollins is somebody who does not need a title. I mean, he's shown us time and time again that he can carry the show. He can be the spotlight. He can still be wildly over without a belt.
But he just looks so good with one.
He does, and I'm a big Rollins fan. I like seeing him as a champion, but with his history as far as him, cashing in Money in the Bank, becoming a champion, I thought it would have been, pretty good for him to do the same for Theory in the sense of being the guy that lays down for him. And again, Rollins doesn't need the belt, So, but I mean, I guess with the brand splits and the other titles, that I guess Roman Reigns has the Universal and the WWE title, and those are on
undisputed Universal Championship.
Yeah. But those are both on a different show. Who is Intercontinental at the moment?
Luther.
And which show is he on?
SmackDown.
Right. So that leaves the U.S. title carrying Monday Night Raw in the Raw brand.
Right.
So I mean, it does make sense to put it on somebody like Rollins if that's going to be your main belt on your program. So I'm not mad at it. I understand it, and I was happy to see that I guess report that Austin Theory is not being bumped down. He's actually still going to be somebody that they have big plans for. So
right.
We'll see, man. We'll see. It's definitely sparked some interest. I mean, it's something to follow. So
yeah. Well, I guess back to the SmackDown news with the World Cup.
Yeah.
For Gunther's title. First round, we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Santos Escobar.
Okay.
Japan and Mexico basically fighting it out. And that's what they had flags up and everything.
Escobar took the win there, right?
Yes, he did. Surprisingly, I probably wouldn't have had him take the win.
Yeah, I did see somebody kind of pointing out online that that was an interesting decision, considering that Nakamura is about to face Muta in a little bit of Forbidden Door action. So it would stand to make sense that if you're WWE, you would maybe want to make Nakamura look strong going into that. So yeah, interesting call. Not too surprised by it though, because I've told you before, Nakamura was great prior to WWE. He was great in NXT, but his main roster run has been pretty uneventful for me.
And it hasn't been the best.
No. Which I've read interviews with the guy, and he seems perfectly content to take that paycheck and kick back, and the guy likes to surf a lot. So he goes surfing and hangs out at the beach and seems to be living his best life. So I don't think he's too upset or bothered by his treatment on the main roster.
Maybe not. Maybe that paycheck's just enough.
For some guys, the paycheck is enough, and especially when you've had a pretty successful career prior, and Nakamura's already established himself as one of the greats. We'll be watching Nakamura matches 20 years from now, 30 years from now. They just won't be WWE main roster matches.
No, they will not. Let's see. The other part of round one was the United States versus India. So we have Braun Strowman versus a returning from injury Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, and
Braun Strowman squashed his ass.
I saw that. I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm kind of torn between both of those guys. I like the idea of making Braun Strowman a legitimate threat and building him to be a big monster within the company. Not too crazy about the guy personally. I'm sure you probably heard some of the
Yeah, I know.
the controversy there with his tweets, kind of taking shots at some of the lighter, smaller guys on the roster. Guys has a tendency to put his foot in his mouth. But
very light way of saying it.
Yeah, but I mean, I like the guy as a wrestler. He's big. He's got a good physique. He's gotten himself in good shape. Really wanted to root for him this time around in WWE. But I like Jinder Mahal, man. I remember when he won the WWE Championship not too long ago.
I think people forget that he's been a WWE champion, United States champion, that he returned on Raw in 2016 to put down Heath Slater and betrayed him and have done all these things. He's beaten Randy Orton.
He's super talented, man. He's in great shape. So yeah, that was kind of a hard one. It's like either guy wins or loses. It's
Actually, now that I think about it, he's beaten Randy Orton for 2 titles.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Jinder Mahal 2-0 against Randy Orton when Randy Orton is holding the belt.
I mean, it's good for Strowman, that win, because like you said, I mean, Jinder Mahal is established. He's done some pretty awesome things. He's beaten some top talent. He's been a WWE champion. So, I mean, that's a good win for Strowman.
Oh yeah, but Strowman's kind of accomplished a little bit more than Jinder has. I mean,
has he?
I mean, let's see. Braun Strowman, if you want to count Nicholas's run or not, has won the Raw Tag Team titles. He's won the Universal title. Has won the Intercontinental title. Has won Money in the Bank. He has won the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah, a few of those I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't count myself. So,
and he's been the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner.
Yeah, I mean, I guess those are attributes. Like I said, I don't really think a lot of the Greatest Royal Rumble. I don't really think a lot of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I'd like to. I'm a big fan of Andre the Giant. Cesaro won the first one, but we saw how that went for Cesaro. I don't
not anywhere.
No, didn't go anywhere. And then we talked earlier about Nicholas and that whole thing. So those are a few that I probably would just kind of gloss on over and forget that ever happened. So
yeah, but Jinder Mahal does have the kind of veteran background, though, if you think about it.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
I just don't like certain veterans losing to new guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing to do right. It's got to happen eventually,
Well, I mean, let's look at it. Jinder Mahal just returned from injury.
Well, I mean, I guess that's that's in a way kind of protecting Jinder Mahal because he's coming off an injury, so he may not be at 100%. You've got that to kind of fall back on and say, he lost to Strowman because he's getting back in the swing of things. So
okay,
it's not Jinder Mahal at his peak with a returning Strowman, coming in to knock him down a peg or two.
That's understandable. But then you also have the situation on Raw. We had Austin Theory do a match with Shelton Benjamin before Theory cashed in.
Mm-hmm.
and Shelton losing to Austin Theory.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a dicey thing to navigate. You know, you could make the argument of putting over new talent. You know, somebody like Shelton Benjamin, who's pretty well established. I don't know that necessarily hurts him that much. We all have off nights, you know.
In my opinion, if you lose to Austin Theory, that's more than an off night.
I mean, that's like, you know, your opinion, man.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Austin Theory's great. I'm probably gonna die on that hill.
You probably are. If it's me and you, you're going to die on that hill. I will not like Austin Theory. Something great will have to happen for me to like Austin Theory, to even buy a single piece of his merch.
Oh, come on, man. Come on. You're not being very Uzi.
No, maybe I'm not. But
so yeah, what else? What else from SmackDown?
I think one more thing was on my mind. We do have new. We have made history on SmackDown with new longest reigning tag team champions of all time, that being the Usos.
Yeah. So New Day lost. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic. I totally saw that.
I seriously thought that the New Day was going to win.
Yeah, just to kind of hold that record.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We've had a lot of greats. We've had Demolition. We've had the Dudley Boys. We've had Edge and Christian. We've had the New Day. We've had the Usos. All of them have great long title runs.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no shame in second place.
Except that you've been passed up.
What? No way. Then call Jimmy if you trust him.
I'm talking about long title reigns. There's one thing that I like has always messed with me, and it's the mid-card title reigns and how they haven't been, how the records really haven't been broken yet for those.
Do you know off the top of your head who holds the records?
Let's see. I don't know if the Miz or Dolph Ziggler have broken the record for Intercontinental title. I know Honky Tonk Man was the last I heard held it for 600 days.
Let's see. Yeah, Honky Tonk Man is Yeah, Honky Tonk Man is still the record holder, 454 days. Chris Jericho holds the record for I guess multiple reigns. He's been Intercontinental Champion 9 times.
Okay. It looks like that Lex Luger is the longest reigning United States champion with 523 days.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. So no one has surpassed Lex Luger, and the reign, let's see, the reign began, well, the closest that's come to that was Dean Ambrose.
That's interesting.
Dean Ambrose, well, it looks like Lex Luger, oh, okay. I'm just reading more into it. Dean Ambrose is probably the longest reigning WWE United States champion, but Lex Luger held it between WCW and WWF. So I wonder if that's the longest reign, or just 2 reigns broken up and then added.
Yeah, I don't know that I would count that.
Okay, then I guess the longest reigning WWE United States champion would have to be Dean Ambrose / Jon Moxley with 351 days.
I'm surprised WWE hasn't already started, somebody else on the path to bumping him out of that spot.
I honestly thought it would have been Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
That's not a hard record to break.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm surprised they're not already, have somebody that's already about to get that name out of there.
I know. I mean, they did it with CM Punk.
So yeah, looking up the longest reigning tag team champions. I'm not even familiar with who this tag team is, but the Fabulous Kangaroos. Do you know who that is?
The heck?
Yeah. Apparently,
The longest reigning tag team champions or longest reigning WWE tag team champions?
well, they were longest reigning. They're in the number 4 spot. So yeah, and that's, I guess, counting days prior to WWE. So same company, different name. But yeah, I just thought that was a funny name, and I've never heard of those guys, so it was interesting to see them on the list.
The Fabulous Kangaroos.
So yeah, apparently, yeah, Paul London and Brian Kendrick, 331 days. That's pretty impressive.
I know that Kofi Kingston has the most days combined for the tag team titles, with 954 days total.
That's
pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I think we might have talked about it before. To me, the longer reigns, the more time with the belt means a lot more, than the number of times you've held a belt. The number of times that you've been a champion, really, it's kind of impressive, but not nearly as much as like the amount of time that you spent as the champion.
I get that. Like, if we talk impressive stuff, if you were to cut a promo in the ring, like against like Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair, John Cena, like, and they talk about their illustrious title reigns, reigns plural. How many times have you won the title in such a short span of time? That means you've lost it a lot.
Right.
I think you brought that up for a couple of weeks as well. So.
Yeah. That's I mean, and that's my thinking behind it. I'd rather see hold it for a couple years. And whether that's consecutive, or like adding Kofi's amount of time as champion together. Either way, that's still more impressive to me.
Mm-hmm. Because in my eyes, if you have someone that's held the title for 1,100 days, and then someone that's held the title 18 times comes to challenge him, it's not much of a challenge.
No, I mean that 18 times, I mean you could win a title and lose it, a few weeks later,
right?
Win it back again and lose it a few weeks later. It's not, it's about being consistent and being on the top of your game for longer.
And think about it, the promos for it would probably be good because the champion would probably have more of a over than the challenger for that. Because if you think about it, all the champion has to say to a challenger, the challenger brings up how many times they've held the title and how many times they've tried to make it great, and they always do. All the champion has to bring up is their reign is the longest of history.
Yeah.
How many times you've won it so and so many times? You add all that up, I bet it's not even half of my reign.
Right. And still, the point you mentioned earlier, it's like, well, that just means that you've lost it 12 times. You've won it 13, but you lost it 12. So, I guess I did see as well. Sarah Logan made her return. She's catching a little bit of flack for her attire. Have you seen that?
Well, sort of. It was kind of the same attire that she wore at Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's it's not really too different from what she's worn in the past, but it is a bit different. It's a little bit of an evolution of that same look. But I guess what people are taking issue with is it. She looks an awful lot like Max the Impaler. Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Max the Impaler, but you should look that person up
Real, come on with it.
and take a look at the look and compare that to Sarah Logan.
Oh, yeah, that looks a lot similar.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess people are kind of calling out Sarah Logan a little bit for apparently, sniping that look from somebody else.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing it right now. I've seen this. I've seen Max the Impaler in action a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a match or two. Um,
Yeah, no, this is yeah, it's very similar. I I see what people are talking about.
yeah, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Now Max the Impaler is not, on a main, show, does not have big time exposure. Um,
Showed
but
up a few times in Ring of Honor and in Impact, but that's just about it. And AEW Dark. So
yeah, yeah. So with Sarah Logan being on the bigger brand, having more eyes on her, the whole thing might just blow over, and she might just keep doing what she's doing. But it'll be interesting to see what her next appearance looks like if she keeps that same, look or tries to change it up a little bit.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see with that.
that's always an interesting, I guess, kind of thing, because I'm not sure if you know about the Nature Boy gimmick, Ric Flair's gimmick. A lot of people under the assumption that that's his gimmick, that Ric Flair is the originator of that, but that's actually not true. Um, so the whole Nature Boy, the strut, a lot of the stuff that Ric Flair did, he got from Buddy Rogers. He was the Nature Boy as well. So it's and if I'm not mistaken, there might have even been another Nature Boy at some point in time. So yeah, the whole like gimmick, borrowing from other people's gimmicks, and you can see a lot of similarities between gimmicks over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't usually think it's a big deal unless it's an exact copy.
Yeah, or I mean, are you familiar with the Renegade in WCW?
Not really.
No. During the heyday of the Ultimate Warrior, WCW introduced a new wrestler by the name of the Renegade. Very similar look. Not exactly. Yeah,
Similar.
yeah,
Man's the Dollar Tree version of the Ultimate Warrior.
yeah. But they did something really kind of cheap. The first time that the Renegade was seen on WCW television, he was introduced by Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan was talking about having an ultimate surprise. Okay, they show the Renegade behind Hulk Hogan. He's not lit entirely, so you can't see his face. They've got the lighting done where it's kind of coming from the ground up and from behind him. There's smoke, so if you're watching this at that time, you have every reason to believe that's the Ultimate Warrior standing there.
Warrior, and people were probably like, "Yeah!"
Yeah. And then so later on, whenever he made his debut, and shows up, it's obviously not the Ultimate Warrior. So there's a little bit of trickery afoot there.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. It was a big fail.
Yeah, it was a flop. I'm seeing this, I'm like, man, this man didn't have many matches.
No, like I said, it did not work. And I think WCW realized that pretty quickly, and gave up on it.
Yeah, it looks like they had a few figures made too, but not many after few.
I didn't know that. I've never seen a Renegade figure.
It looks like they had a few figures of the Renegade,
Okay.
like some old ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is that pretty much it for Raw and SmackDown?
I think that's pretty much it for just WWE in general. So,
well, I do have some WWE related, I guess, news. It's not necessarily from the program. Maybe this just kind of flew past your radar. Maybe you're aware, but did you hear the controversy about the Road Dogg this week?
I think I read something on that.
Yeah. So Road Dogg has a podcast, and on that podcast, he made some pretty interesting remarks in regards to Bret the Hitman Hart. I'm gonna see if I can.
I just read it, so
Yeah.
That's pretty bold.
Yeah, I got
very bold of old Jesse James to have said.
Yeah, so I've got the clip in question. I'm gonna play it and see if it picks up on the audio here.
And if you've listened to my podcast, you know that's true. I don't think I was a good wrestler. I don't think Bret was a great wrestler. He was wrestler. I think I was a better sports entertainer than Bret was, and I think that's where the money is. So I always thought that he should have done business and done what was right. And you know what I mean? I know writers who use subtext, and they're all.
So is that did that come through?
Yeah, that came through perfectly.
Yeah. So there was a bit of controversy there. That's I don't really take so much issue with the sports entertainer remarks. I think there's a way of looking at that situation in terms of a sports entertainer, and you could possibly make that argument. I think Bret was a better sports entertainer in the sense that what Bret did, was sports, and it was entertaining. He had a gimmick, he cut promos, and was involved in storylines, and he wrestled. That's a sports entertainer. So in that sense, I would still say Bret was a better sports entertainer. However, if we're looking at this in terms of setting wrestling aside, being an actor and doing what you're told by Vince, doing what you're told by the boss man, I think Road Dogg, was a bit of a yes man and would have probably done whatever he was asked to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bret wasn't really into kind of the showy acting side of sports entertainment. So, but setting that aside, because that's not really what I take issue with, saying that Bret Hart is not a great wrestler, that he wasn't a great wrestler, that is that it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that anyone, especially somebody who is in the business, somebody who's been in a wrestling ring, somebody who's been on WWE programming, somebody that fancies themselves, I assume, a fan of wrestling, which he did go on later to say in that same podcast that he himself is not a fan of the ground game, that he likes the Gaga, which that's a weird way of
a very weird way of saying it.
Yeah. But I mean, I would say, obviously, you're not a fan of the ground game. Obviously, you're not a wrestling fan if you can say that that Bret Hart was not a great wrestler. It's just ridiculous. I don't know any true wrestling fan who's familiar with Bret Hart's work who would ever say that. So yeah, I mean, Road Dogg's entitled to his opinion, of course. But I likewise am entitled to mine, and I think Road Dogg is maybe taking a few too many shots to the head.
I just commented something, so I didn't want to say it, but I wanted you to look at it. I wanted everyone else at home to look at it. So I didn't say it. I just typed it. So because I don't know how it would pick up with me saying it.
Yeah, that's I mean, and it definitely seems maybe Road Dogg was part of the crew with Shawn Michaels and maybe a little bit of that history is kind of influencing his opinion there. Now he did put out a short video this week after the podcast went live, and he kind of was trending on Twitter, and he put out a video trying to, I guess, save face a little bit, and essentially all that video was him doubling down on those remarks and saying that he's entitled to his opinion, and also saying that if you watch the entire 2-hour podcast that clip was taken from, he said a lot of other nice things about Bret. So I mean, again, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's fine that you said other nice things about Bret, but that one thing that you said right there was really, really wrong and incorrect.
I don't know. Think I'm entitled to my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, your opinion on the matter seems to be fairly accurate. So yeah, it's I don't know that I'll ever. I've never been a Road Dogg fan really anyway, but I mean, the guy was a roadie. His gimmick was a roadie who told people to suck it.
Definitely one of the weaker parts of DX.
He was the weakest.
Yeah,
I would say he was the weakest link.
one of the most forgettable ones, actually.
Yeah. I mean, in every regard, he was the weakest. He was the weakest on the mic. He was the weakest in the ring. His look and his gimmick. Yeah, he's like I said, somebody whose gimmick was being a roadie, telling people to suck it, and somebody that rode on the coattails of Shawn and Triple H and DX. Road Dogg never got over on his own. I don't know. I think it's a pretty safe, thing to say that I don't think Road Dogg ever put butts in the seats. I don't think he ever drew a dime. I don't think anybody ever bought a pay-per-view or bought a ticket to a show to go see Road Dogg.
Right.
Bret, on the other hand, was
insanely mania. Bret was having rivalries left and right.
Yeah, had the look, had a cool gimmick, WWE champion, got over on his own without, riding anyone's coattails.
He was the perfect heel.
Yeah. It's just it's crazy talk, man. That's crazy. But yeah, it's it is what it is. Like I said, he's entitled to his opinion, but I think that'll do it.
That's all the news and updates. All right, now to get into a little bit of a topic. I had brought this up. The different versions of ourselves, or the different versions of wrestlers in general. Not just gimmicks, but total character changes.
Yeah. It's a cool topic. It's a cool thing to kind of go back and watch. Over the years, some of the guys, man, will slip right by you. and it'll take you years to realize that it's the same guy. I think Papa Shango. You remember Papa Shango?
Papa Shango, The Godfather.
Right. It was years after, The Godfather, before I realized or found out that was Papa Shango. So yeah, that one snuck by me. That one was kind of surprising. So yeah, Johnny Polo, Raven.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty good one. That one as well. I remember Johnny Polo from when I was a younger kid. So he managed the Quebecers, right?
Right.
And then years later, land on ECW, and you're watching Raven. And I Raven is one of my all-time favorites, and got really into him and was following him over at WCW, and at some point realized through reading a magazine or surfing the web that was Johnny Polo, and that one kind of blew my mind as well. So yeah, that's pretty that's a pretty good one, I'd say. Let's see. So, are you familiar with PCO?
Yes, he was the Glacier, wasn't he?
No.
No? That must have been someone else.
No.
He looks a little bit like the Glacier.
So PCO is Pierre Carl Ouellet, or Ouellet. Not exactly sure how to pronounce his name. He was one half, speaking of the Quebecers, PCO was one half of the Quebecers. And yeah, that guy has totally reinvented himself. Was Ring of Honor champion a few years ago.
I'm looking at it right now. I've seen this guy do some stuff. Yeah, the crazy little electric stuff that he does.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of got like this Frankenstein, kind of gimmick. But yeah, that one I only found out recently. I remember seeing him pop up in Ring of Honor and thinking, well, this guy's he's an older guy, but he could go, and he did some crazy stuff. And then he ended up being Ring of Honor champion, which I thought was surprising. And then now he's landed over in Impact. He was part of the Honor No More invasion when Ring of Honor shut down, and those guys popped up over in Impact. And yeah, I only recently learned that's the same guy. So that's another cool one. Somebody that's been able to reinvent themselves and kind of reinvigorate their career. And I think PCO, like Raven, I mean, Raven ended up getting over so much more with the Raven, character than he did with Johnny Polo. PCO, more so than with the Quebecers. Though I wouldn't discount the Quebecers. The Quebecers were a good tag team. Papa Shango, and the Godfather. I think those are pretty. I think the Godfather was probably more over than Papa Shango, but Papa Shango wasn't too shabby himself. Did pretty well for himself. So yeah, those are a few examples just off the top of my head that come to mind that I think are particularly interesting. So yeah, and I'd throw in Mortis, WCW. And I wasn't thinking of that one, but you mentioned Glacier, and for some reason I can't think about Glacier without thinking about Mortis. But yeah, Mortis went on to that's Chris Kanyon, Jersey Triad. So yeah, that's an interesting one too, and the way that change occurred. Mortis, feuded with Glacier for a bit, and then he tried to join Raven's flock, in WCW, and Raven actually, ended up rejecting him, and that's when he took off the mask, quit being the Morris character, and ended up being Chris Kanyon. And yeah, I mean, Chris Kanyon is one of those guys that's gone too soon. Great underrated talent who really could have done a lot more for himself than he did.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you know about the whole persona and character change stuff. What I want to know is kind of like a this or that, either or. Which do you prefer?
In terms of like
a character, like their own persona, their own different style of character. Same wrestler, just different character.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I mean, Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, Mick Foley. Of those, I enjoy all of them. I'm a bit partial to Cactus Jack. I think that's a bit more of my favorite. Sting is another one who's had some different incarnations over the years. You had the Surfer Sting, the Crow Sting,
Sting.
Yeah, the Joker Sting as well. I enjoy all of those versions of Sting, but the Crow Sting would probably be my favorite version of him. Yeah, and I mean, I'm a little partial because The Crow is still my favorite movie of all time. So yeah, I'm a little partial to that one. But I will say Chainsaw Charlie is much better than Terry Funk. That's a joke. That's a joke. Don't come at me over like that. That's clear. Yeah, clearly a joke. Yeah, that 70s guy is clearly better than Mike Awesome.
And yeah, I like it.
Another joke. Don't come at me.
You just on a roll with these controversial topics. We had little people wrestling.
Yeah,
character change.
I'm a man of controversy.
You are becoming a man of controversy.
I just have a sense of humor. That's
always good to have.
It's controversial in this modern era.
Yeah. Let's see. What'd be another one? It'd be like Farouk and Ron Simmons.
Yeah, and then Max Moon and Conan. Yeah.
Conan.
Max Moon, man. Max Moon is way cooler.
Prefer Conan. Conan's more of a badass.
I'm clearly joking. Max Moon was super lame.
Oh. See? I want you to be honest. I want you to be honest with these.
I mean, I thought some of these takes would be pretty obvious that I'm joking. There's nobody thinks that Max Moon is better than Conan.
I don't know. I think that here's a controversial thing. I think if they did it right, I would like Max Dupree over LA Knight. If they did it right. If they did the character right.
That one's tough because I still miss Eli Drake. I don't think LA Knight or Max Dupree have really done it for me the way that Eli Drake did. Eli Drake was phenomenal. I was so on board with Eli Drake. LA Knight just seems. I mean, it's like when you're the meme of I want Eli Drake, and your mom tells you we've got Eli Drake at home, and it's LA Knight. It's just
dummy.
Yes. It doesn't live up to the expectation.
Yeah, it's It's what WWE has done over the past few years. They can't really get the exact character unless the character allows them to use it. Kind of like AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson, Samoa Joe, and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, and it's interesting what what talent gets to keep their name, what talent pretty much keeps the same gimmick when they come into WWE, and then the ones that have to change it up or choose to change it up.
Just right stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to think of some others.
Dominic Dijakovic and T-Bar.
Yeah, Donovan Dijak.
That's
that's in the Eli Drake category for me. Donovan Dijak was awesome, and everything since just feels like a cheap imitation. The T-Bar stuff was way out of left field, and just never. I knew from day one that was not going to work.
Retribution's a cool concept. It's just the execution of it was just not good.
No, cool concept. Everything else surrounding it, from the way that their attire and their look to the names, the T-Bar,
Mace, Reckoning, Slapjack. That's a pancake.
Yeah.
That's Slapjack, pancake.
Yeah. It's just that was doomed to fail from the start. And then for me, I'm not a Mustafa Ali guy, but the second he do what?
I'm like, you've touched on that. Not a lot of people are, but you've definitely touched on you're not Mustafa Ali guy.
Yeah, but his involvement there was too just like, nah, this is not going to work for me. So yeah, trying to think of some more of these gimmick changes.
Mace and Mace and Mosse and Mansoor and Mansoor. Maximum male models in general.
Yeah, the model gimmick, I guess, Rick Martel did it well. Even Tyler Breeze, I would say, did it well. Yeah, these new guys don't.
Might as well put Quincy Elliott in there with them.
Is that his gimmick?
No, that would be more Pretty Deadly gimmick.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Quincy, man.
Quincy's gimmick is just that he's gay.
He's gay, and he rides one of those Walmart carts to the ring.
Yeah.
And, that thing that Scott Steiner said.
He's fat!
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good gimmick change. Scott Steiner Brothers or Scott Steiner singles run?
Big Papa Pump.
Big Papa Pump.
Yeah, and that would be, the wrestling fan in me would say Steiner Brothers. The sports entertainment fan in me says Big Papa Pump all day, every day. Yeah, so much entertainment value with Big Papa Pump. Controversial figure, but entertaining.
He's fat. It's got to be like a sound notification.
Yeah.
Like just on your Twitch stream or something, like pops up a reward or like an amount of money, just like the sound bite. He's fat.
Yeah. We need a Scott Steiner button, like one of those buttons that you can slap that just.
I think you can like order one of those.
I that might have to happen. Yeah, that might have to happen.
God. That would be, I'd be pushing that like the entire time. You'd have to get it away from me.
Yeah, there's probably a few sound bites that you could load that up with that to just have on hand for these conversations.
God. All right, let's get back on topic.
You've got the classic, Hulk Hogan versus Hollywood Hogan.
Classic.
It's a hard call,
Or you can talk about the American Patriot.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's hanging on to that. So, yeah, I mean, the classic Hulk worked for me. When I was a kid, when I was much younger. I was a teenager, during the NWO run there. So, Hulk Hogan had gotten a bit stale, played out, tired. So the NWO Hollywood Hogan character at the time, I thought it was really, really cool. So yeah, that's a hard one to really choose between, for me at least.
Okay. I just knew my decision right off the bat was classic Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
The song's a whole lot better than just the NWO song by itself. When the gang's all there, that's when the NWO theme and all that comes together. But if it's just better, just classic Hulk Hogan.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, it's hard to think about Hollywood Hogan and not think about the NWO, not think about Hall and Nash. None of those guys really stood on their own at that point in time. So, I mean, I would probably say classic Hulk, just because it did stand on its own 2 feet, and worked better on its own. So, let's see.
Well, there's always Nikki ASH and Nikki Cross, but that's
you know how I feel there.
yeah, we know how both of us feel there. Superhero gimmicks are never the best.
Yeah, I guess you've got the Natural, Dustin Rhodes versus Gold Dust versus Seven.
I like Gold Dust the best.
Yeah, Gold Dust is actually pretty underrated and a good character. Are you familiar with the Seven character?
I think I've seen like a dark taped match, and I was like, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah, I mean, you should look it up if you get a chance. Dustin left WWE or WWF and went over to WCW, just like everybody else did back in the day.
I did actually see that, actually.
Yeah, they made him a character named Seven, who was just all white makeup. He wore like a trench coat and a black hat, and he came out to the ring and cut a promo live on Nitro, I believe, and was basically kind of talking out of character, like shooting on the gimmick and the backstage politics of WCW. And I don't think he was too happy to play that character and play that gimmick. It was lame. It was very, very lame.
He looks like Fester and the Undertaker came together.
Yeah, Uncle Fester. I think there was a movie. Yep. Yeah, there was a movie back in the day around that time called Dark City. And I think that was kind of the influence for the look. I think they were trying to kind of take what they did with The Crow and Sting and take another kind of popular movie at the time and take the look from some of the characters and kind of work off of that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Didn't work. Wasn't a good time. So who else? Who else do we got? Oh, we got Rocky Maivia and The Rock.
I was going to bring that up, but yeah, they're totally different characters.
Yeah,
It's like bringing up debut John Cena, Thugonomics John Cena, FU John Cena, and John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, even though they're all John Cena, they're they're different
Same
gimmicks.
guy.
Yeah, different gimmicks though.
Yeah.
So
Rocky Maivia is just the same.
yeah.
What about 3MB? Heath Slater, Sheamus, and not Sheamus, sorry, Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal.
Yeah.
All three of them went through many changes.
Yeah. Isaac Yankum. Are you familiar?
I don't think you just pronounced his WWE name, or I don't know. No, I'm not.
You don't know Isaac Yankum?
Oh my God. You mean Kane?
He was Isaac Yankum before he was Kane.
I don't want to know.
He was a dentist.
Dr. Isaac Yankum, DDS.
He was a dentist, and his last name was Yankum.
That's great that you didn't know that. That's
Oh my God! And I've seen his character before. Yeah. And I've seen that exact character before, not knowing what it was.
he's a dentist with really bad teeth.
Yeah. He was called something else as well. Because he went by another name. Hold on. I can find him in this game because that had his exact face and exact attire as a card. But go on.
That's so awesome that you didn't know that. So
No, and I've seen it before. I've seen that face.
Yeah. Do you remember, or are you familiar with when WWF brought in the fake Diesel and the fake Razor?
No.
So yeah, after Scott Hall and Kevin Nash left WWF, they had went over to WCW, and WWF announced that Diesel and Scott and Razor Ramon were coming back. They were going to be in a match. So Kane, Glenn Jacobs, played the role of fake Diesel. And it actually worked out pretty well for Scott Hall and Kevin Nash because WCW actually thought that they were going back to WWF. And so they threw a bunch of more money at Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in order to get them to stay and not go. Little did they know that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash weren't, actually going back to WWF. It was a fake. So yeah, it worked out pretty well for Hall and Nash. I don't know if that's going to focus, but yeah, that's the fake Diesel.
Hey, you know what? It looks just like the figure.
There we go.
Yep, it looks just like the figure. So
yeah.
Also, I found the card. I found the card.
Yeah, I think it's funny that that Britt Baker stole that gimmick.
How genius is that? Making him a dentist and his last name is Yankum.
Right.
I'm gonna die laughing. I need to get off that. Oh man. Ah. Oh. Mm. Woo. What about Dolph Ziggler? You know, Ricky from Spirit Squad.
Yeah, that's a. I mean, Dolph Ziggler is definitely better.
Way better.
Yeah, yeah. That's not me joking anymore. That's
That's
sincere.
serious. So
So, you familiar with the Shark?
the shark?
Yeah, you remember Earthquake in WWF?
Oh, yeah, I do. Natural disasters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them.
Well, yeah, Earthquake jumped ship and went over to WCW as well, like everyone else. And when he came out over there, he was, I think they went with Avalanche. And then I think there was some legal issues there because Avalanche, Earthquake, it was too similar. Um, so he was the Shark. He he and that didn't really go anywhere. He ended up dropping the gimmick and just going by his real name. I guess another one that probably both of us probably should have gotten and mentioned that we haven't so far. Um, Owen Hart, the Blue Blazer.
Yeah.
That's a pretty important one. Um, and that's one of the cases where you started out with a gimmick, change to a different gimmick, actually got over, and then reverted back to the previous gimmick that was not over.
Just so it could try and get over.
Yeah, it's a weird, and I actually enjoyed the second Blue Blazer storyline. It was pretty cool because he would, it was obvious that it was Owen Hart because Owen Hart was the original Blue Blazer. And you could tell that it was him. It sounded like him. It looked like him. It wrestled like him. But they started having like imposter Blue Blazers because people were calling Owen Hart out and saying, "You're the Blue Blazer." And so he would be in the ring talking with them, and another guy would come out dressed like the Blue Blazer, or the Blue Blazer would be wrestling a match, and Owen Hart would come out and interfere in the match, So it was a good, like, is he the Blue Blazer?
It's
But
like Ezekiel Elias thing.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. And it was one of those things where it wasn't, truly a mystery. It was obviously a ruse and a ploy. The funniest, I guess, moment with that was he had a black guy, dress as Blue Blazer, and so it's that was pretty funny. But yeah, that's that's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Edge, Christian,
Yeah, the Brood.
the Brood,
Yeah.
into, the comic relief, into just like the Radar Superstar.
Yeah.
Those were pretty good changes. What was the worst of those? I mean, no, the Brood wasn't the worst, but
Yeah, I've never been a big Edge fan, man. He's not bad, but I've never really been a big fan of his. I liked the Brood. I liked, shortly after they left the Brood, the Edge and Christian tag matches with the Hardys and the Dudleys. Those were just great matches to watch. And all those teams were pretty crazy in the things that they did. But yeah, really when Edge and Christian split, and Edge was doing the solo stuff, I just stopped really caring about both of those guys, really. I picked up on Christian a little while later. I think Christian is probably better of the two, in my honest opinion. I don't know if that's a popular opinion. Probably not, but.
Well, I think we're just about out of time. And
Cool.
you've just about finished your bubbly.
Yep. Two bubblies down.
Oh my God.
It's about time for a pee break.
Well, I want to leave on this note. One thing, it's neither are the topics that we answered today or a part of the news. But one thing that I do want to discuss, maybe even later on, death matches and the style of death matches.
Okay.
And how dangerous those are.
Yeah.
Do you think those should be allowed?
Yeah, we'll probably have to talk more, in depth about it. I have mixed, probably some, I guess, contradictory opinions. I'm somebody that thinks like pile drivers should be banned. I don't think we should be doing pile drivers. That being said, I enjoy a tame death match. I'm talking WWE style death matches.
Extreme rules.
Yeah, more extreme. But when you get into the
GCW type stuff.
Yeah, the CZW and some of the like current indie GCW stuff that gets a little too extreme for me.
The stuff you actually have to kind of look away for a minute to.
Yeah, that stuff.
From.
Yeah, that stuff takes it a little too far. So it's I guess it's maybe weird on the one hand that I'm somebody that doesn't like to see pile drivers and thinks that those should be banned, but also am down to see somebody go through a few tables off of some scaffolding or a really high ladder or tacks, kebabs. Some that stuff has its place.
Yeah, and I'm the same way about certain moves. Like I think the they call it the hurt lock, but the full Nelson I feel like should be banned.
Yeah, you think so?
That thing. Oh, I know so. I've been put in a full Nelson in actual wrestling.
Right.
And that's illegal in wrestling, in actual wrestling, in high school wrestling, and in UFC and all that. It's a submission attire move, and it is known to cause spinal injuries, could also create many problems, paralyze. It could paralyze certain people.
Oh, okay.
That move is very dangerous, and
I didn't.
I'm just surprised no one's really gotten totally hurt in WWE by that move.
Yeah, I don't know
how safe Bobby Lashley makes that move because he's also swinging that around, putting more pressure on that neck and lower back.
Right.
With the spine.
I don't think I realized that was as serious of a move as it is. Then. Yeah,
it's I've always looked at that move. I'm like, it's cool that you can use it like that. I just don't see how safe it is because of the personal experience I've had with that move.
Well, likewise, the pile driver is obviously not a safe move. You've had, multiple guys with broken necks.
Stone Cold.
Yeah. But, in terms of keeping kayfabe and being able to suspend my disbelief, if you're going to do the move, it should be reserved for a finisher and when it's done, it should be done. You shouldn't. There should be no kicking out of that. You know, in a real world sense, you should probably never walk again. So the fact that, you know, in this modern era, you see Canadian destroyers and, you know, pile drivers done middle of the match, early on in the match, and guys are getting up and still, you know, wrestling for 15, 20 minutes, you know, 30 minutes
Remember
out.
when the DDT was a finishing move?
I do, you know, being a big Raven fan and a big Jake the Snake fan, you know, even Mick Foley with the double hook DDT. I think the DDT should be a finisher. Real quick, you know, interesting little tidbit there. I did I went on the Jericho cruise for my honeymoon, and Jake the Snake was there. And he did a podcast with Jericho, the Talk is Jericho podcast, and you could sit in on the podcast and listen to it. And Jake, you know, they touched on that topic with Jake, and he had a pretty interesting, you know, response to it. He was talking about how the modern guys are basically weaker than him, because when they do it, guys kick out and they get up. But when he used to do it, it was a finisher. People were, you're done, you know. So basically making the point that, like, you know, he's a tougher guy than the new generation, because his DDT actually put people down. So, but yeah, good point. I feel the same way about the DDT. I think that should be a finisher. And also, very quickly, there's a new series on YouTube. If you haven't come across it, it's made by Vice, which I'm not really crazy about, but they're the same people that did the Dark Side of the Ring series. I don't know if you've ever watched any of those.
I've heard a lot about it. It comes on live TV. My grandfather usually flips through the channels at night because he can't sleep, and will be like calling me like, "Are you sure you want to be a wrestler?"
Well, yeah, Dark Side of the Ring is great. You should watch it. Check that out. They have a new series called Tales from the Territories. It's narrated by The Rock. It's on YouTube. I think the most recent episode was episode 6. I've only watched one of them, so I'm not caught up. This wasn't from last week, but I did start the series, and this week we watched episode 2. Are you familiar with Andy Kaufman? Do you know who Andy Kaufman is?
No, but the last name sounds familiar.
Well, Andy Kaufman was an actor from a TV show back in the day called Taxi. It was actually where, like, Danny DeVito and Tony Danza and Christopher Lloyd, where those actors, you know, all started out at. Jim Carrey, speaking of Jim Carrey again, did a movie called Man on the Moon, and it was a movie about Andy Kaufman. And if you've never seen Man on the Moon, if you don't know anything about Andy Kaufman, definitely watch Man on the Moon. Jim Carrey does a phenomenal job. Jerry Lawler is in the movie. So, without giving too much away, because I want you to watch this, but episode 2 was about Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman wrestled for Jarrett and Lawler, their Memphis wrestling territory back in the day.
I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah. It's a quick watch, man. I think the episodes are like 45 minutes long. They do a pretty good job of you know, really covering everything in those 45 minutes. But yeah, there's a spot in there where, you know, they're showing clips of Andy Kaufman taking a pile driver from Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, like,
yeah. And at that time, the pile driver was illegal. So it was a big deal to be doing a pile driver, taking a pile driver at that time. But yeah, check out that episode, man. I really enjoyed it. Andy Kaufman was great. He was somebody that was a big wrestling fan who actually got to live his dream and be a wrestler. He was so into it and so good that he worked his parents. He worked doctors and medical professionals. Like he kept kayfabe. So yeah, check out episode 2 of Tales from the Territory, man. I think you'll enjoy it, and if you do and you enjoy it, go down that rabbit hole and look up some more Andy Kaufman stuff. Watch the Man on the Moon movie with Jim Carrey. It's all pretty interesting stuff. He was a really
check it out.
Yeah, he was a really interesting guy.
Well,
But yeah, I guess the only other thing before we go, Paige announced that she's cleared. Did you see that?
yeah, I did. Saray will be fighting Dr. Britt Baker at Full Gear.
Yeah.
So that is going to be, in my opinion, her retirement match.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, no, I don't not. I think Saray is going to get in that ring and wrestle and be like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
And we'll just be done,
Well, there's I guess she is medically cleared, but I don't know how true this is. I kind of was reading some stuff about maybe she's got some stipulations to wrestling. She won't be taking any moves from behind.
I can see that.
So yeah,
I can see.
That's an interesting caveat if that's true. If you're somebody who can't take moves from behind, I don't know that you should be getting back in the ring. It seems a bit dicey and unsafe. But we'll see if your prediction is true, man. We'll see if that's a retirement match.
I think with the double injuries that she's gone through and the fact that she hasn't really been in a wrestling ring doing a live match in what seems to be like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think the last time she wrestled was that taping where she got her back and spine kicked from the back by Ember Moon, or her other name.
Yeah, Athena.
Yeah, I always know her by Ember Moon. So.
Well, yeah, I think that about does it.
And I think it's been a long, long stream. So
yeah, we'll get it edited down up on the YouTube channel maybe tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. So yeah, look us up on YouTube, the Bad Brothers Babyface Breakdown. Check us out on Instagram. Give us a follow.
Gradually going to get followers so that we don't do live streams on this channel. We'll be doing live streams on the new channel.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you want to leave a comment, let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want more of, what you want less of. Tell me how funny I am, or whatever you feel.
Are we funny? Are we controversial? Are we just not your type of thing? Our topic's not getting to you? Just let us know.
Yeah. I can take it.
Yeah. Our feelings don't get hurt that much, We have some years behind us where we've had our feelings hurt, and just a like on the video, just do it, guys. But yeah, we'll let y'all go, and we'll be on our way. I'm Big Bubba Brogdon.
Yeah, Boosh Dingo, the Luchador.
This was your breakdown of the week, and possibly might break down that we're not going to get enough views.
Well, I enjoyed talking with you, buddy.
Oh yeah, no, I enjoy this a lot.
Cool. That's all.
I remind you every week that Austin Theory sucks.
All Oh man, I can't wait till you have to admit defeat.
Not going to. Austin Theory sucks, and I will stand behind that until he does something that honestly makes me turn my head.
Yep. It'll happen. We'll get there, and then I'll have all of these videos that I can take you back to.
Montage of videos, and then it's just me. You know what? He's not that bad.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. All right, guys. Well, y'all take care out there and enjoy some wrestling, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week, next Sunday, same bat time, same bat place.
Yeah, keep it oozy.